The Nefertiti Conspiracy, Ancient Egypt's Greatest Archaeological Scandal. An Ancient Mystery Investigation. Greetings, fellow time travelers and ancient mystery hunters. Welcome back to Ancient Mystery, where we uncover the most shocking secrets buried in the sands of time. I'm your archaeological guide, ready to take you on another mind-bending journey that will completely shatter everything you thought you knew about ancient Egypt. Today's discovery is absolutely explosive. We're about to reveal one of the greatest archaeological scandals ever uncovered. Before we dive into this incredible mystery, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what we're about to reveal will leave you speechless. The mysterious discovery that shook the world. Picture this scene with me. It's October 16th, 2009, in the heart of Berlin, Germany. The newly renovated Neues Museum is about to reopen its doors, housing the finest collection of Egyptian artifacts in all of Germany. But the crown jewel, the star attraction that draws millions of visitors from around the world, is the breathtaking limestone bust of Queen Nefertiti. For over 20 years, this masterpiece had been displayed in Berlin's old museum. Now she was moving to her new home to become the ultimate tourist magnet. And let me tell you, fellow treasure hunters, she is absolutely stunning. A timeless work of art that embodies perfect beauty and aesthetic value. She's been called the Mona Lisa of ancient Egypt, a symbol of Egyptian identity that's over 3,000 years old. But here's where our story takes a shocking turn. The bombshell accusation. Just as the celebration was reaching its peak, devastating news broke from Geneva that spread like wildfire through international media. The claim that the famous bust of Nefertiti might be a fake. This controversial accusation came after a 20-year investigation conducted by Swiss writer and historian Henri Stierlin. Listen to his exact words. "I have no doubt in my mind that this is a fake, a copy, a forgery, or a model. But wait, it gets even more incredible. What made academics suspicious from the very beginning was the unique preservation condition of Nefertiti's bust when it was discovered. Here's the mind-blowing part. The statue was completely asymmetrical and bore no resemblance to any other 3,300-year-old bust from Egypt. To historian Henri Stierlin, Nefertiti's bust was preserved so perfectly, or as he puts it, so suspiciously new, that it was almost impossible to believe. And here's the most intriguing clue that will absolutely blow your mind. A second bust was found right beside Nefertiti's. A bust of her husband, Pharaoh Akhenaten. But get this, while Nefertiti's bust was in pristine condition, Akhenaten's bust was completely mutilated and destroyed. Think about this logically, fellow mystery solvers. Why would there be such a dramatic contrast in the condition of these busts that were found at the same time in the same exact location? This is the question that launched one of archaeology's greatest investigations. In Montpellier, down in southern France, archaeologist and Egyptologist Marc Gabolde, who's also an expert on Nefertiti, carefully considered Stierlin's claims. Here's what this renowned expert had to say. "I must admit he was right to raise the question, but the arguments he presented aren't necessarily sufficient. If he could provide me with some strong scientific arguments proving this was a forgery, I would accept it. But here's where the story becomes even more mysterious. There are definitely some doubts floating around the archaeological community, but incredibly, no expert has dared to officially declare their suspicions. In the basement of Berlin's Neues Museum, a press conference was held. Journalists were taking notes, but amazingly, there were no questions about the authenticity charges. In Germany, such accusations are considered absolutely taboo. Why? Because this bust, discovered a century ago in Egypt by German archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt, has become a national symbol. When we posed the question to the director of the Neues Museum, Friederike Seifried, here's the incredible response. When you stand before the bust, this question never crosses your mind. It's unnecessary to say that it's authentic. The real question is, why would it be fake? Many archaeologists, Americans, Italians, French, have expressed their doubts about whether the bust is genuine, but none have officially declared their suspicions. So we decided to conduct our own investigation, and what we discovered will change your perspective forever. Everyone is extremely cautious. No one has dared to openly declare that this object is fake. But why? What are they so afraid of? To understand this mystery, we must travel back over 3,000 years to ancient Egypt, to the lost city of Amarna in the heart of the Egyptian desert. This is where one of history's most romantic couples lived, Pharaoh Akhenaten and his beautiful queen, Nefertiti. She remains one of the greatest mysteries in pharaonic Egyptian history. Archaeologists have spent generations examining every monument, every hieroglyph, which are sacred writings carved on every column and temple wall, desperately searching for the slightest evidence of her existence. In this labyrinth of columns and temples at Karnak, they finally found the first image of the queen carved directly into stone from a now lost temple. Yet, incredibly, nothing is known about Nefertiti's origins. She was most likely Egyptian, and certainly the primary wife of the 18th dynasty pharaoh, the great Akhenaten. Here's what makes this story absolutely fascinating. Nefertiti and Akhenaten were also the most romantic of all pharaonic couples. Their love story began at a very young age. On statues, her age is identified as just 14 years old. For the first time in Egyptian history, people witnessed two teenagers ruling an empire while holding hands. They're depicted as being deeply in love. Most amazing are the images of the king and queen embracing each other. They've been portrayed on the royal chariot with Akhenaten kissing Nefertiti. The queen is shown placing a necklace around the king's neck, while he takes the opportunity to give her a kiss on the cheek. These are incredibly intimate moments that must reflect a true love story. Thanks to her husband Akhenaten, this heretic and rebel pharaoh, Nefertiti's name has survived through the ages. Akhenaten entered history because he imposed Aten, the sun god, as the only deity, abandoning Egypt's many traditional gods. During his reign in the 18th dynasty, Akhenaten built new temples, many of them open to the sky to allow the beneficial rays of the sun to shine through. In his new religion, Akhenaten developed a personality cult, where he and the sun god gradually became the same being. In their 7th year of rule, Akhenaten and Nefertiti moved from Karnak and established themselves at Tel el-Amarna in the middle of the desert. There they built a new royal city they called Akhenaten, meaning horizon of the sun. This famous couple in Egyptian history lived in a modern city built quickly to accommodate 50,000 inhabitants. a city filled with temples that had no roofs, where Akhenaten and Nefertiti often spent their time worshipping the sun god. The reign of Akhenaten and Nefertiti lasted only 17 years. After their deaths, their successors would destroy every trace of their existence and dismantle the palaces brick by brick. In less than 30 years, the city would disappear, returning to the desert. You could call it the Pompeii of the sands. It was in this rectangular desert area, measuring 5 kilometers by 10 kilometers, that on December 6, 1912, the complete bust of Nefertiti emerged from an unknown location, discovered by German archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt. Ludwig Borchardt was born in Berlin in 1863 and became the most famous archaeologist of his era. Borchardt was fascinated by Egypt, its monuments and architecture. In 1906, this German archaeologist organized an excavation in the remains of Akhenaten city. A ghost town, according to some, but an incredible archaeological site for scientists. Borchardt seemed convinced he would make the discovery of the century. On December 6, 1912, surrounded by his team, he would make an unforgettable discovery, the famous limestone bust of Nefertiti. The carved limestone statue was found just 50 centimeters below some gravel. Borchardt had brought back to life a remarkably realistic and colourful model of a queen. The million-dollar question. But here's the question that will absolutely shock you. How did archaeologist Borchardt make this masterpiece appear from nowhere? Before the Germans arrived, the ancient city of Akhenaten had been the virtual preserve of the British, with their chief archaeologist Flinders Petrie, who led major excavations at the site in 1891 and 1892. They opened tombs, discovered magnificent wall paintings of high officials, and uncovered palace foundations. However, they had never encountered anything resembling the magnificent bust of Nefertiti. When Borchardt's archaeological mission arrived, it was mocked by the British. They were convinced the Germans would find absolutely nothing. Flinders Petrie had already been there and stopped working at Tel el-Amarna at the end of the 19th century. For him, it was finished. He had the idea that it was over, and there was nothing more to be found. As we know, this wasn't true. The race for treasures. At the beginning of the 20th century, Egypt was the world's greatest hunting ground for archaeologists. Prussia was late in the race for treasures. Kaiser Wilhelm ordered Borchardt to return with a trophy, whatever the cost. Before starting excavations, the clever archaeologist sought advice from leading archaeologists in Cairo, many of whom dealt with thieves. He was told that part of the ancient city of Akhenaten had not yet been excavated. Borchardt was also an architect, and before arriving, he had drawn floor plans of the southeastern sector. It was previously inhabited by craftsmen, but untouched by the British and thieves. Through extraordinary luck, Borchardt discovered the offices and house of the sculptor Thutmose, one of the most remarkable finds of his excavations. He quickly realized he had found a property that included several sculptor studios. Excited, the archaeologist decided to dig every square inch of the gardens. Behind the silos, he identified the house of the master craftsman Thutmose, the personal sculptor of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. This is where Borchardt reportedly found the bust. Curious to trace the past, investigators returned after a century to follow in the footsteps of archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt and search for the house where the statue was discovered. El-Amarna is located 5 hours by car south of Cairo, the abandoned city of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. Joining the investigation were Ludwig Borchardt, an expert in ancient Egyptian artwork employed by courts to identify forged pieces, and Ahmad, the General Inspector of Excavations at el-Amarna. Using Borchardt's precise excavation notes and drawings, where he wrote extensively about his discovery of the bust in 1912, they traced the exact location where the Nefertiti statue was discovered. Here we are at Thutmose's house, a very important house, explains the guide. Built by Ludwig Borchardt on December 6, 1912, the bust of Nefertiti was found, which is now in the Berlin Museum. This is what remains after 3,300 years of Thutmose's workshop. The chief sculptor Borchardt reportedly found the bust in one of these rooms. Using the map, archaeological expert Ludwig Borchardt explains the location. This is very moving because this is the reception room of the villa. It's almost certain this is where the owner would have hosted his distinguished guests and high officials. Why not Queen Nefertiti herself? According to Borchardt's notes, which are extremely precise about this matter, in this corner he found the Queen's bust. According to Borchardt, Nefertiti had been buried here for more than 3,200 years. The investigation continues, fellow mystery hunters. In the next episode, we'll dive deeper into the evidence, examine the scientific tests conducted on the bust, and reveal shocking testimony from insiders who know the truth about this ancient mystery. What do you think? Is the bust of Nefertiti authentic, or has the world been fooled for over a century? Share your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Ancient Mystery for more archaeological adventures that challenge everything we thought we knew about the ancient world.